Basically, he's asking, in when it comes to the marrying the captive woman, is there consent there? Is she being forced? Is it about rape?
Oh yeah, no, that's not about rape, but I can answer now. Jay, do you want to say something, or you want to jump into that? It's up to you.
Well, this is an argument a lot of people try to bring up that Christianity allows rape. If you go back to Genesis, the story with Dinah, I mean, no, rape is already forbidden in Genesis. Rape's also forbidden in Mosaic law. So this is captive women in warfare, and that you had to treat them with certain levels of dignity, which, by the way, was revolutionary in the ancient world.
Amen.
So no, it's nothing to do with rape or prepubescent girls.
Yep. In fact, if you screen share, if you've actually read it, the context, if you want to share my screen. Okay, Deuteronomy 21, 10 to 14. Now I'm going to show you from the passage what Jay said. Okay, so you heard what he said. You're going to war. Now you have women whose family, right, have died in war, because that's what happens, whether we like it or not. War is part of life. This is the world we live in. So we can't live in a fantasy world we're thinking there won't be wars and there won't be people killed. Now, unlike what we have in Islam, you know this, in Islam, because I wanted to compare this law that comes 20 years before Muhammad with Muhammad. Chapter 4, verse 24, the Quran, it says that you can take even married women who are captive and sleep with them, even if their husband's alive, and sell them. That's in Islam. That's Chapter 4, verse 24 in the sound hadith, Sahih hadith. Now I want you to see the difference here. Deuteronomy 21, 10 to 14. If you go out to battle against your enemies, see, it's a battle, and Yahweh your God gives them over into your hands, and you take them away captive. Seeing among the captives a beautiful woman, set your affection on her, you take her as a wife. Number one, you can't have sex with her. She's not a slave for you to have sex with. That's number one. You have to marry her. Give her the status and dignity of a wife. Then you shall bring her home to your house, and you shall shave her head and trim her nails. So you're going to let her mourn, sign of mourning. Now, this also does another thing. If she shaves her head, she's bald. This will make sure, to be a deterrent, you're not just lusting for her, right? Can you imagine a woman that looked like me bald? Would you want to marry someone like me? Anyway, you get the point so far?
Yeah, I'm listening.
She shall also remove the clothes of her captivity. She'll remain in your house and weep for her father and mother full month. Give her a whole month to mourn her family. And after that, you may go into her and be her husband. She shall be your wife. Now watch the difference here. And it'll be that if you do not desire her, then you shall let her go wherever she wishes. But you shall certainly not sell her for money. You shall not mistreat her because you have humbled her. Meaning, because she was taken a captive, now you divorce her. She's not your property. You can't sell. This is unlike Islam. I can take women captive, married women, grape them, sell them. No, you can't do that. Now, this is not 21st century. At that time, in that culture, women, for all intents and purposes, remained in their father's houses until they were married. Then they would remain in their husband's houses. And if they had children and the husband died, then their children would protect them. It is not like today where women can go get their own apartment and do their own thing. In light of its historical cultural context, women who are left alone would be the prey for predators, for people to come and grape them and enslave them. This is actually a humane treatment because her family's killed. So you don't then add insult to injury by taking her as a slave and graping her. You show her dignity and make her a wife, giving her the full status and the same rights of an Israelite wife. But now, if you don't like each other, you don't like her, and you divorce her, you got to let her go. But that's the same thing for wives in general here. Deuteronomy 24.
Sam, just a small point. You see, what I need to understand from that verse is it like
you got to speak louder. I can't hear you.
I'll do it for him if you can't hear him.
So. So what I mean there from that verse, can she have any saying? Like, can she say yes or no at the same time? Can she also divorce? Because that's what I need to understand. Last three sentences, like
the last three sentences, even if you want to go with that she has no choice, which I'll answer that. Why are you ignoring the fact that in that cultural context, to give her this kind of dignity and not sell her as property was revolutionary? Are you getting that point?
Yeah.
Okay. So what you're doing is you're reading it from the 21st century. You're not looking at it from its cultural context. The fact that he can't sell her off as property, but must divorce her and then allow her to go. Watch here. Okay, now watch here. Anyway, that if you do not desire, then you shall let her go wherever she wishes. Did that not answer your question? It's her choice. Do you see that now?
Yeah, so you mean so she can choose to stay or she can go. So that's
Well, if
what
there's a
you're-
divorce, obviously she's not going to stay married. But what it means is she is now free to settle anywhere because she's not your property. She's not a slave that you can just grape and sell off like what Muslims do. And I have to mention that because this is 20 years before the time of Muhammad. So did we get that first point?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. So in light of its cultural context, this is revolutionary. And it's not me saying it. You have even critical scholars who study the ancient Near Eastern context that says this law is revolutionary. Here, let me show it to you. And I'm going to answer your question. I'm not going, but I just want you to read carefully, not read it like, oh my goodness, look, I shot. Yeah, because you're dealing with a different context. Right here. Let me bring it up. A note on the humanitarian character of Deuteronomy 21:10 and 14. Right? Here it is. Let me just read one commentary. The law focuses on the rights of the woman by stating that the man who marries a female prisoner of war and subsequently becomes dissatisfied with her, for whatever reasons, is not permitted to reduce her to slavery. Such a woman had legal rights in ancient Israel, and moral obligations ensue from the fact that the man initiated a sexual relationship with her. Perhaps the most significant conclusion to draw from this text is the respect for the personhood of a captured woman. You got it? The primary concern, laws of Deuteronomy 20:25, is for protecting the poor and vulnerable in society from exploitation on the part of the powerful. So this was actually a way of protecting her from being exploited. So in light of its context, it's revolutionary. Here's another one. This law exceptionally seeks to provide for the human rights of the woman who falls into this predicament. The verb ina is also some used for rape, not in this context though. And its employment here stringently suggests that the sexual exploitation of captive woman, even in a legally sanctioned arrangement of concubinage, is equivalent to rape. See, God is saying, if you take a woman as a slave and then you force yourself on her, you're raping her just because she's a captive. So you can't do that. You must treat her as a woman, give her the rights of a wife, and treat her like an Israelite woman. So if I read in its context, this was revolutionary, showing you that God not only cares for Israelite women, he cares for Gentile women. Do we get that first point?
Yes.
The second point to answer your question, this is where we have a problem in that when the Bible is written, these instructions were to be explained by the priests, and they would have to deal with situations not clearly spelled out in the law, meaning the law given is a summary, succinct code of life that the priest would then have to take by a case-by-case basis and explain and apply for circumstances not covered in the law. In other words, what I'm saying is the question of her choice or not, it's not addressed here. But that doesn't mean she didn't have a choice. It means I don't have enough of the background because I'm not there with Moses and the priest to know what Moses would have said to them orally. I only have what is written. But the principle is here. Let me show you the principle. Let me show you what the principle is. That you cannot force her against her will. Right here again. Right? Then you shall let her go wherever she wishes. See, that principle says she's a human with dignity and value, and you must respect her desires. So you understand? In its context, it's revolutionary.
I need to understand it again. I will listen it back, but from what I get right now, this part with the what she wishes. It explains a lot, because that's not in the Islam, like just
Exactly.
like I know lots of hadiths like where it's you're not like you cannot marry them, because they say, I know they use one of the words from the Quran, like marry the right hand possesses, but it's
Oh yeah.
not regular, like yeah, because they use that as an argument, like you have to marry them also. But I
No,
know there's some of the
because
hadiths.
no. In 424, it says, "Forbidden to you are married women, except your right hand's possessed." So it means if there's a married woman, I can take her if she's my right hand possession and marry her. Why am I marrying her when she's already married? See, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, because even the prophet, he have like wives and concubines. So
Maria,
if they were there, yeah, if they were wives, so why should they count it as the wives? They wouldn't be named concubines. Yeah.
But you see the difference between Islam and that Quran 424 and the Hadith say, not only you can take single women captive and grape them and sell them off, even if they're married, you can do that. Notice the difference here. You can't take a married woman who's already married. She's got to be a single woman. That's why it says, who's she mourning? Her father and mother. Doesn't say husband. Only a woman who's single, and then you marry her. You don't even grape her, and you can't sell her. You can't touch her sexually unless you marry her. This was revolutionary at that time.
Yeah, because if you know also they in Hadith, like you sell your both the slaves and the mother of the slaves, which also contradicts, because you're not allowed to, if you have like a child from a slave woman, you're not allowed to sell them walid. But it
Yeah,
also contradicts in the Hadith, where the people practice that like 2 centuries, like up to Usman, and then they change it. But
yeah,
they
muta,
never.
yeah. That's a different, yeah. But brother, that's what I can tell you now. Remember, we have to be careful. Just because something not spelled out in the law doesn't mean that's it. Because the historical context, this law was given to the priests. They were instructed by Moses and Aaron. They would have to be thoroughly instructed on how to apply the letter of the law, because there'd be situations, not just law, and the priest would have to know how to then apply each command to each situation. It's much more complex. All we have is a written record. This was a living community that took the law, and this law would have to be expounded and explained and applied by the priest and as well as the prophets. But anyway, that's my answer.